This week might get a little confusing. We have Neptune at play, a lot of Piscean energy, and then Jupiter comes in, having us feeling a little too overly optimistic or overly confident. Be intentional about your boundaries and your intentions, and you might just be fine. Welcome back to another episode of the Hella Fluid Collective podcast, where astrology meets small business. I give you your week ahead horoscope, whether you're a small business owner, a creative, or an entrepreneur, or just a regular person who wants to know what's going on in the cosmos. I'm here to help you tap into the natural ebbs, and today we are talking about the astrology for the week of November 24th through March 2nd. If you want a month ahead horoscope where we look at all of the transits happening for the next month, then make sure you subscribe to my newsletter so you get that straight to your inbox. Or you can subscribe here. I do it via audio, I do it on YouTube, but if you want it in a blog format where we go over every single transit, then you do want to sign up for that newsletter. Because in the blog, I have a little section where I have supportive days, dynamic days, and spicy days. So if you're making some plans and you don't want to do it on a day where there's more tension in the air, those are the days that, you can plan around. So subscribe. All right, let's go ahead and dive right into the astrology for this week. The first transit is on Tuesday, February 25th, and this is Mercury conjunct Saturn. Now, this can go a few ways, but I will say this is probably the most straightforward energy of the week. There's a lot more confusion and disillusionment coming through the week, but this day, on and around this day, is when we might be thinking a bit more straightforwardly. So Mercury rules our mind, our communication, our friendships, the way we process things, our logic. And Saturn is all about our relationship with discipline and our responsibilities. And it's the planet that teaches us lessons, usually through hardship, so that we can build the discipline to make sure those things don't happen again. So when these two come together, they join forces and create another energy where it's combining these things, and our mind and the way we're thinking and communicating is more stable. It's a bit more serious and more focused on the things that we need to do and take responsibility for. So, in one way, this can be used to help us problem solve. It can also be used to help us figure out the little details when we're planning for the long term. If you're researching or just doing something that takes a bit more focus, or especially if you're doing a task that maybe isn't fun, but it's really necessary. On the other side, because Saturn can be more restrictive, this can have us thinking in a very limited way. So we might be more focused on the things we don't have, or it could have us focus on the things that we don't have. Saturn can also be kind of depressing. So if you have depressive thoughts already, this may enhance them. Or if you don't, it might bring them. So it could go either way. I would really suggest channeling this energy into a project or a task so that you can use it to your benefit. As for business owners, I would do exactly that. I would use this energy to do a task that maybe isn't fun, but is very necessary for your business to move forward. This can give you the endurance to get that task done. The next day that we have exact transits is Thursday, February 27th, and there's two. The first one is Mercury forming a sextile to Uranus. Yes, Mercury is very active this week. This is a more supportive transit because it's a sextile. However, Uranus is generally a bit more destabilizing. It comes in and disrupts things. So Mercury sextile to Uranus may have us feeling a little bit restless in our mind, which can go either way. If we already have really busy minds, this could make it feel like it's going a little bit faster. But on another note, since Mercury rules friendships and short little trips, you may feel compelled to go on a spontaneous little day trip with a friend, which could prove to be very beneficial and bring new opportunities or breakthroughs that you weren't expecting. And it could be something as small as like just going to the coffee shop downtown with your friend, grabbing something to eat real quick, and having a conversation that really sparks new things for you. As for business owners, I would break free from your normal routines or your normal thinking patterns. If there's something that is bothering you, instead of approaching it from the same way, like really think outside of the box, and there's supportive energy for you to find new solutions by doing so. Maybe talk to a friend about this issue or go on some chat boards where you can find other opinions. Communicating about what's going on can prove to be really helpful. Communicating in new ways. Then later on that day, we have a new moon in Pisces. Pisces rules creativity, it rules spirituality, it rules our relationship with compassion and being empathetic towards others. It really looks at how we are all connected, not only to each other, but to nature, to this planet, to, I don't know, quantum physics, all that stuff that we can't see directly, but is there, we can feel. That's very Piscean. New moon means new beginnings, new intentions around these things. It's a lovely time to set intentions around a new spiritual practice, or maybe you want to be more compassionate towards yourself or somebody else, take a new approach to understanding a situation with more empathy, stepping into giving to others. This does form a loose square with Jupiter. We'll talk more about Jupiter in just a minute. Squares with Jupiter aren't so terrible. Jupiter brings lots of optimism and generosity and opportunity wherever it goes. The only thing to watch for is to watch for being overly optimistic. So what I think this new moon is asking us to do is to dream really big, and it's okay to be overly optimistic as long as we are not necessarily super committing to those things before we're seeing if they're going to work out. So we don't need to worry about the details of how it's going to work out, but this new moon gives us permission to dream big without figuring it all out. As for business owners, I would use this new moon to pick one area in your business where you could be more compassionate. Maybe it's with yourself and not pushing yourself so hard. Maybe it's with your teammates, trying to see things from their perspectives, or maybe we get annoyed with how clients or people interact with your products. Maybe being more compassionate there, and not only for their sake, but also for your sake, because it's easier on yourself when you don't get as triggered by things. You know what I mean? Moving on to Saturday, March 1st, we have Venus stationing retrograde. Now, this is annoying because Mars just stationed direct, so it would be nice if, we could have some directness before we step right into another retrograde, but we don't. And I will say in a couple weeks from now, we have Mercury stationing retrograde as well. So the retrogrades just aren't ending, anytime soon. I think they will get all the inner planets going direct in April. Okay, so it's coming, just not yet. So Venus is all about our relationships. Not necessarily like our family relationships, but like our friendships, our lovers, our romantic are ruled by Venus. Venus also rules our value systems, meaning the things that we value and how we value them, why we value them. And with that comes our finances as well too. What makes us feel secure and stable. Not necessarily that finances do that, but this is all what's ruled by Venus, and sometimes it does, right? Lastly, Venus also rules our definitions of beauty and our relationship to beauty. So when it's going retrograde, it's asking us to reflect, reassess all of those things, really looking at what we value. Maybe we haven't taken a moment in a while to think about what we value and why we value those things and getting really intentional with those things. Sometimes we get this retrograde may have us disconnected from our values and our relationships so that it gives us a moment to get present with those things. It feels icky to be disconnected from them, but then we really have to sit down and figure out what's going on. Why does this make me feel weird? And how can I create more connection with these things? How can I realign with these things so that they are in line with my purpose and who I want to show up as in this world? As for business owners, I mean, you can do all these things that I just mentioned, but on a more strategic level, you could use this retrograde to review your finances and review your budget, which is perfect because we're coming into tax season. So I wouldn't suggest this energy for making any big purchases. But again, looking back at your spending patterns, seeing if you can notice anything that could be adjusted, this would be a really good time to return to that. I also want to add that Venus is retrograding in Aries. Venus is not very comfortable in Aries. It doesn't really like to do its job very well in this sign. So already Venus is weakened here, and when it's retrograde, it's a slowed down version of this as well. So we just may feel a weakened connection to our finances, in our relationships, and to our values. And that's okay. It's really just to get more intentional about it. When there's a disconnect, we have to sit there with them and figure it out. Venus does dip back in a little bit where it loves being, so that could bring a bit more supportive energy into this reflection and reassessment. On to Sunday, March 2nd, we have two exact transits. The first one is Mercury conjunct Neptune. Okay, so this is where the confusion comes in. Okay, like I said, Mercury is doing a lot of things this week. It's making lots of connections. So our mind is going to be really active. And with this connection, again, conjunctions can kind of go a few ways. In a more beneficial way, we can tap into the creative and spiritual side of Neptune. So if you want to let your mind wander and follow the path that it goes on and see what comes up for you, maybe this might be beneficial. If you are a writer, if you're a creative writer, this is your energy. If you want to do some creative projects that maybe take a bit more thinking, maybe you're creating a new product, or maybe you're designing something new. Maybe not so much, I mean, art is fine too, but that's not as Mercury. Mercury is when the mind gets involved and you're kind of figuring things out, figuring out the little details. If you're kind of creating a project where you're just kind of getting the outline done or getting this higher level, or you're just free flowing with it, not proofreading or finishing or making sure it's to the T, that's not what this energy is about. Because with this energy, there's lots of space for miscommunications, misunderstandings. So, this is the other side of Neptune. Neptune brings confusion where it goes. It brings blurred lines. It brings a lack of boundaries. So this could also bring more of those thought spirals that could also have happened with the Mercury conjunct Saturn. This could enhance it. So if your head is not really in a space you want it to be in, this could exacerbate it a little bit. So if you can really do something to focus your brain on where you'd like it to be, it's very easy to get lost in your thoughts with this energy. As for business owners, it may be really difficult to focus on this day. So not great if you're planning on getting a lot of nitty-gritty things done. If you can, it is a Sunday after all. Do some free flow stuff, see where your brain takes you, see what you feel like doing, being a bit more intuitive with what you're doing that day. It may pan out for you. The last transit of the week is also on Sunday, and that's the Sun forming a square to Jupiter. As I mentioned, Jupiter squares aren't so terrible. They can bring a lot of confidence. They can bring a lot of optimism. and really just an eagerness to go after opportunities. Things may be presented to us, and that's fun, that's exciting. The thing to watch for is being overly optimistic or overly confident about what you are able to achieve. So you may say yes to certain opportunities because you're feeling super empowered and like you totally got this, but this energy could fade and that could dissipate, and now you have too much on your plate. So really get intentional about what your capacity is before you're saying yes to opportunities that you're locked into. As for business owners, this is really good energy for brainstorming, as is the Mercury conjunct to Neptune. So this whole day is great for brainstorming. Again, not really focusing on the little details because those can easily get lost. But if you want to brainstorm about how you can expand your business, just get a whiteboard, chalk up all the ideas, and just let them sit there, let them marinate a little bit before diving into any sort of action plan. All right, y'all, that's it. That's it for this week. Have a beautiful week. I hope you have a beautiful new moon in Pisces, and I'll see you next week. Until next time, stay hella fluid, y'all.